mest omtalte film, Vi er jo bare i februar, er en komedie de færreste av oss får se, rett og slett fordi den er forbudt i Norge. Og denne gang kommer ikke forbudet på grunn av for store doser kriminalitet, vold eller sex. Nei, Statens filmkontroll har grepet inn med støtte i straffelovens paragraf nummer 142. Profeten, Brians liv og historie er etter sensurens mening blasfemisk. Og hva handler filmen om? Vi har spurt regissøren Terry Jones, som er en av de 6 ledende skikkelsene i Monty Python-gjengen.
As your film, The Life of Brian, has some problems by the censorship, we can't see the films in the cinemas in Norway. Can you please tell us a little bit about what it is?
Well, the film's basically set in Bible times. It takes place in AD 33. And the basic story is of this young fellow called Brian who falls deeply in love with a beautiful girl who happens to be a member of one of the Jewish resistance groups. And then Brian inevitably gets dragged into the Jewish resistance against the Romans. And the tale is his involvement in the struggle against the Roman authorities.
But it is also in general a film about the struggle against authorities, isn't it?
Yes, I think that's true. It's funny, people seeing the film, a lot of the talk about the film seems to assume that the film is totally about religious authority. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's if it's about anything, it's about authority in general, in the Roman authority or the church authority or whatever.
From what angle are you shooting?
Well, we shoot from many, many angles indeed, yes. I think we're shooting from the angle of, well, you've got to think for yourselves. There's a moment in the film, for instance, when Brian gets up at a window and addresses his would-be followers, or the people who are following him. And he says, look, don't just do what you're told, think for yourselves. That's the only thing we can say. And I mean, I thought that was a fairly obvious, fairly obvious message. But in fact, obviously, it is quite a sort of a message that needs saying. For instance, the Norwegian film censors obviously don't believe that people should think for themselves. They're obviously quite keen to do the thinking for other people. Hence, they ban the film and say, well, we've seen it, we don't want you to see it, and make your own minds up.
You're also shooting against the new feminists. Why?
Oh, no, that's just because it makes a good joke. I think we make jokes against anybody who takes things too seriously. And I think sometimes the new feminists do take themselves too seriously. I'm totally in sympathy in general with their outlook. But
how do you work in general with the scripts in this gang of yours?
Well, there's 6 of us who write the scripts. And how we work usually is that we work as individuals, or in pairs, and we write separately. And then we get together around a table, rather like this one, and read out what we've all got. And then we select from that, and that is the most important moment then, is when the 6 of us are sitting around, and if we laugh at something that somebody's written, if John Cleese has written something and we all laugh at it, then that goes into the script. If we don't laugh at it, John jumps out of the window, commits suicide, something like that, and it means it's out. Then once we've got that script, then we stick with that.
No improvising on the set?
No, not at all, really. The film is actually, because of the nature of the film, it's all on a very tight schedule. We only had 8 weeks, for instance, to shoot the film. And it's quite an undertaking to shoot that film in 8 weeks.
So it is a pre-edited film. You work like Hitchcock almost.
Yeah, pretty well. The script is pretty rigid. We're quite sort of... see, one reason why we all took up acting, really, and directing, was that we started off as writers, and we would find that we'd write things for people like David Frost or Marty Feldman. But we'd find that by the time they got onto the screen, it wasn't what we'd written. And the kind of thing that would happen would be that people would sit around in a script conference, they'd read our scripts, think, oh, jolly funny, then they'd go off and start rehearsing it. And after about 2 days rehearsal, they're not laughing anymore, so they think, oh dear, this isn't funny, we better put some jokes in. And so they start changing and messing around with what was essentially a funny idea. Whereas, so as we're writers, and we've written the stuff anyway, we have a belief in it, so we stick to it. And we just, the whole aim of presenting the film is to try and get the script as accurately as possible.
Your film has so far been forbidden in Norway because they say it's blasphemic. Is it a blasphemic film you made?
No, it's funny really. In England, we got criticised by a lot of English atheists because the film wasn't blasphemous. They said it was a pity that we didn't attack Christianity. But I think what happened was we did start out off in the very beginning. We thought, well, it'd be funny to make a comedy about Christ. That was about 3 years ago, and that was the germ of the idea. Then we went off and we started doing our research, and we all went back and read the Gospels again. And I think we all came to the conclusion that Christ was a good guy. He was saying the right things at the right time. And that wasn't the subject of humour. The subject of humour was what this good guy had said, the one thing this good guy had said, how that all got distorted by his interpreters and by his followers. And I think that's what the film is about. It's certainly an attack on the church establishment, but it's not. It doesn't actually ever bring into question the idea of faith. That is just assumed from the outset.
So you don't understand the Norwegian censorship at all?
Oh, it's absolute nonsense. I mean, it's. I think it comes of sort of a kind of blindness, really, when people. They have a preset idea about something, and so they read things into it. We always find that whenever you get censorship and people are watching a film as censors, they see it in a totally different way from you or I seeing a film. We had things in the TV shows when the BBC began to get more censorious as the shows went on, and they then started in the last series. They then started looking at the shows to see what they ought to cut out, and then they started reading things in that were never there in the script. There was one instance, for instance, when the head of Light Entertainment said to us, "We can't have that sketch because of the penis that you put around the door." And we said, what do you mean the penis that we put around the door? And he showed us the bit, and actually what it was that we had an amputated leg, and the guy just comes out and says, "Would you sign this, please?" And he didn't put the whole leg round the door. I mean, so people read into it what they want to see in. They don't, and I think a lot of that happens with the. I think with the Norwegian film censors as well. From what I understand of their objections, it's a very common thing that people object to style, and they're not actually objecting to what we're saying because they're not obviously listening to what we're saying. What they're objecting to is purely the way in which it's said, because it's a comedy and because it's set in Bible times. They find that offensive. You see, I think legally they're probably on rather shaky ground, the Norwegian film censors. When we got our certificate in England from the English Board of Film Censors, he wanted us to go and take legal advice because we'd recently had a case for blasphemy brought against a newspaper in England by Mary Whitehouse, and they won the case. So the English film censor was very aware of the question of blasphemy. So we took legal advice from a very well-known QC in England, who said that clearly under British law it wasn't blasphemous. I'm pretty sure that would be the case if they went into it in Norwegian law. Because as I understand blasphemy is about faith. It's not about attacking the church. I think it's a traditional part of Christian art to attack the church itself.
Profeten Brians liv og historie